Morning. Okay, we're ready. We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Governor's Fairway CE. Beyond high school, we have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. Helping more Iowans earn credentials that lead to high demand jobs is absolutely critical. I'm talking about both students that are right out of high school as well as adult learners. Proposals like the Last Dollar Scholars and the expanding registered apprenticeships are really a big part of the Future Ready Iowa Act. Those proposals will help employers hire the skilled workers that they need. They will also help more Iowans have great careers in the short term. But we also have to think longer term about how we help all K 12 students connect really what they're learning in the classroom to the future careers that exist right here in the state of Iowa. Expanding work-based learning is an essential step in that direction. And that's why I'm really proud to read and sign Executive Order number 1 this morning. So the good news is it is a rather long executive order. So I'm going to read some of it and then I'm going to summarize the end of it. So Executive Order number 1, whereas educating Iowa children for the knowledge economy requires expanding high quality, in depth work based learning opportunities. And whereas high quality, in depth work based learning means outcome focused professional experiences, such as projects designed by industry experts and educators, internships, quality pre apprenticeship, and registered apprenticeships, which engage students in building academic, technical, and soft skills. And whereas such authentic, hands on professional experiences uniquely connect students in the classroom with post secondary education, training, and future careers, and whereas Iowa's economic vitality depends on employers being able to hire enough skilled workers to meet the needs of Iowa's economy today and tomorrow. And whereas expanding rigorous work based learning opportunities is in keeping with the Future Ready Iowa goal of 70% of Iowa's workforce attending education or training beyond high school by the year 2025. And now, therefore, I, Kim Reynolds, Governor of the state of Iowa, do hereby declare the state of Iowa will be well served by establishing the virtual Iowa Clearinghouse for work-based learning to ensure access to high-quality, in-depth work-based learning in rural and urban communities for students, especially traditionally underrepresented students with a focus on high-demand STEM fields and careers. The purpose, the Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning, will build on existing school business partnerships, such as those launched through the Governor's Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Advisory Council, and the statewide work-based intermediary network by creating a virtual space to connect employers and educators. Local face-to-face partnerships offer advantages, but are not always available. The Clearinghouse will focus on facilitating distant partnerships across the state of Iowa. And this is especially important for rural areas with fewer employers and for schools with significant challenges related to poverty. This will occur in a number of ways if state funding is available, including Iowa Workforce Development will conduct an initial survey to determine employers' interest in participating in work-based learning and whether they are willing to be contacted by schools to explore and develop ideas. The Iowa Department of Education and AEA Learning Online will jointly launch the Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning website no later than July 1 of 2019. It will provide an open invitation to employers to express interest in being a partner in work-based learning at any time in a variety of ways with just a few clicks. Range of options, including existing resources where employers can offer job shadow days and internships, that will focus primarily on newly created projects board where employers can post in-depth projects. Such projects will have to meet certain standards, such as making learning more relevant for students, modernizing the curriculum, and meeting employer needs. Educators may select and lock in those projects. Mini grants may help support the partnerships if state funding is available with employer matches. The goal is to launch at least 100 new in-depth work-based learning projects by July 1 of 2020 and continue to grow the number of projects thereafter. The Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning will compile and update an inventory of established and newly created Iowa work-based learning opportunities for K-12 and post-secondary students. This will provide one location where employers, educators, students, parents, and other Iowans can find out what is available, gather information that may help when developing new work-based learning options, often by linking to existing resources. Such options will be along a continuum of career awareness, exploration, preparation, and training. This inventory shall include, but not be limited to, information about guest speakers, career fairs, job shadow days, in-depth projects, quality pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeships, internships, and teacher externships. So to summarize, the rest of the executive order, the Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning will be a joint venture of the Iowa Department of Education and the Iowa area AEA Learning Online. Together, they will facilitate distant school business partnerships and help build out that inventory. A new Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning Advisory Board is created with half of its members coming from business and industry because it's so important that we have employer involvement and it'll be critical to the success. In partnership with employers, educators, and students, I'm confident the Clearinghouse will transform career exploration and preparation for many more students across the state. And lastly, my budget includes $250,000 for the Clearinghouse as part of the Future Ready Iowa initiative. Sign it. So I'll go ahead and sign it now, and then I'll turn the podium over to Lieutenant Governor Gregg for some more information. Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Gregg. Okay.
Thank you, Governor Reynolds, and congratulations on your first executive order. Yeah. A lot of work-based learning is already underway across the state. The Governor's STEM Advisory Council's STEM Best program is one outstanding example of that. BEST, which stands for Businesses Engaging Students and Teachers, has launched 37 projects across the state involving 39 schools or school districts and more than 360 employers. Building on that foundation is exciting, and it will undoubtedly make learning more relevant for more students. That means understanding why math matters in welding, for example, or using computer science to develop a new app with an industry partner, or developing a program to meet the needs of a healthcare provider like a local nursing home. Those and many more work-based learning projects have been launched in recent years. We want all students to have these kinds of opportunities, and that means more school business partnerships need to be launched. Fairway has stepped up to be one of those partners. So it is now my pleasure to turn the podium over to Reynolds Kramer, CEO of Fairway.
Well, thank you, Governor Reynolds and Lieutenant Governor Gregg, so much for allowing me to be here today. Fairway is so proud to support this executive order and already has many of the pieces in place to help make the Clearinghouse a success. Think of it, when students drive past Boone and they see a large Fairway warehouse complex, they have no idea what it has to offer for a job or a profession, and don't have any idea of the academic skills required for these opportunities. Now, the Clearinghouse obviously is not just for Fairway-based learning, but for all businesses and companies that they have the ability to share their puzzle piece of the work-based learning part, while schools throughout this great state can fulfill the academic pieces of the puzzle. Now, all these puzzle pieces will come together in one centralized place known as the Clearinghouse. With Fairway's experience of years of hiring 14 to 17-year-olds, teaching professionalism, communication, and so many other core skills, it's no wonder that over 50% of our management teams today consist of these former students. With Fairway's coverage throughout this great state, and the potential to use a great model like EDGE, created by Chris Byam and Jill Janes in Boone, the possibilities are endless. We are hopeful other businesses of all sizes throughout the state will use Fairway as an example of how to team up with this great clearinghouse to help our students learn, be successful, and stay and work in Iowa. Now I'll turn things over to Ryan Wise.
Well, thank you, Reynolds. The Iowa Department of Education is an eager partner in this effort to expand work-based learning across Iowa. I'm enthusiastic about today's executive order for three big reasons. First, the Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning will create more equity in access to high-quality work-based learning experiences for all Iowa students. Complements the work of schools, area education agencies, community colleges, and the department over the last 2 years to strengthen career and technical education, or CTE, and STEM for all students in Iowa. For too long, access to high-quality CTE courses and work-based learning experiences were dependent on geography. Now, more students will have the opportunity to apply what they learn in the classroom to real-world settings and projects. Second, this executive order builds upon a strong foundation. This project is a direct outcome of the Future Ready Iowa recommendations and is positioned to leverage existing approaches and projects developed through the work-based learning intermediary networks and STEM Best. Third, the clearinghouse is rooted in strong partnerships. Given the statewide scope of the work, collaboration will be critical in ensuring success. The department has a strong track record of successful partnerships with the Area Education Agency system, including our joint work supporting the Teacher Leadership and Compensation System, or TLC, and Iowa's Early Literacy Initiative. Our two agencies already have a collaborative structure in place, which we will utilize to develop the Work-Based Learning Clearinghouse. In addition, the Advisory Council established through this executive order will help ensure that the perspectives of both business and education, as well as workforce development, shape the development of this project. With that, I'm pleased to turn the podium over to Tom Lane, Executive Director of Iowa's Area Education Agencies. Tom?
Today, we're introducing a virtual pathway for students to cultivate, develop, and align their learning experiences with the real world and real-time needs of the Iowa business community. As a former school superintendent, and today in my role as the executive director of the Iowa Area Education Agencies, my professional work has always connected back to preparing today's students to be contributing members of tomorrow's workforce. As an AEA system, we play an important role in making that connection in every county across Iowa. Our staff are working alongside parents, teachers, and administrators to ensure all Iowa students are academically proficient and prepared to succeed in post-secondary education or in a career choice. We stand together today as advocates for all children and are committed to helping them have lives that are rewarding and productive. From the earliest days of ensuring kids are equipped with the ability to read, to their secondary years when they need hands-on project-based learning experiences and post-graduation planning, we're in schools and are supporting student learning. I am privileged to stand alongside powerful partners and great leaders who share this vision. Fairway has stepped up to not only engage Iowa students, but to also make sure they have the qualified employees they will need in the future. The Department of Education plays a significant role in facilitating school improvement efforts and supporting school districts, area education agencies, and community colleges, all under Dr. Wise's leadership. Our governor has championed STEM education from her work first as lieutenant governor, and today as governor demonstrates her continued focus on our state's need for a skilled workforce. We are grateful for her leadership, the business community's commitment, and to the Department of Education in helping to bring this initiative to fruition. Today, on behalf of the dedicated AEA staff supporting student learning across the state, We thank you for the leadership and vision and look forward to collaborating on the virtual clearinghouse for project-based learning. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Well, thank you, Tom and Reynolds and Director Wise. I appreciate your comments. Before we take questions on this subject, I also have one more announcement that I'd like to make, and that is that the registration for the Governor's 2018 Future Ready Iowa Summit will open on Thursday, February 1st at iowastem.future Ready Iowa Summit. The April 3rd summit is open to the public, and it will focus on work-based learning and computer science instruction. We hope to be able to attract leaders from business and industry, education, students, parents, community advocates, legislators, and many, many others. Highlights include Brandon Bustede from Gallup. We'll also have Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, as well as Governor Hickenlooper from Colorado, and an interactive Iowa showcase of school business partnerships that you won't want to miss, because there are some great things happening across the state, and this will give us the opportunity to showcase what we can really build on. The cost is $50 for adults. Students are free of charge, and so be sure and go to the website and sign up. We think it'll be a great Future Ready Iowa Summit. And with that, we'll take questions on the topic at hand.
An example of the distance partnerships.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's a pilot, a Great Prairie AEA has been doing this. So that's a great example that we can take what they're doing and actually build out from that. I'm excited that I have a Fairway and Reynolds Kramer standing here today. Those fairways are in small communities all across the state. And if we want to make sure that every child has access to in-depth work-based learning opportunities, to have businesses that are located in communities all across the state is a great opportunity for us to do the outreach and provide those examples. So it's also an opportunity to highlight some of the great, like Boone, you heard Edge. So other schools can go on and see what's already happening and really implement some of those great practices. Sometimes when you don't have to start from scratch, but you can take something that's happening someplace else and kind of adapt it to what you have available in your community. It's really, really beneficial. And we've certainly seen this just scale and grow like a wildfire across the state. Rocket Manufacturing in Northwest Iowa would be another example of a great work-based learning program that's really doing some great things for our young people and really matching them up with employers.
Are students going to be paid for this, or will these be unpaid internship type things? Can somebody tell us, for example, what will Fairway be? If students are doing this, what will Fairway be?
It's not paid right now, right?
But I think
You have to step up here real quick. Yeah.
I think what we're doing is we're working with our teammates here to try and figure out exactly how the plan would go. The reality is we would pay an employee, obviously, that's working for us. The trick here is that we want it to be also to be able for the student to be able to have credit. It goes back to the classroom, which then we'll be utilizing from some of these other programs. And when there's probably comes to play that there's a cost to that. And we've made a decision as a company, Fairway has, that we're going to pay for some of that cost. We feel it's important. We're not going to ask the governor to find the money to help us. We're going to pay for some of those things. And the hope is that other businesses in all these communities that we're in see what we're doing, and then they start to do the same thing in their way that they can.
I'll add on to that too.
Are all these students getting an hourly wage, minimum wage?
No. First of all, there's a host of opportunities that are happening right now throughout the state. This is an opportunity to bring business and industry job creators together with middle school, high school students and provide them opportunities to participate in an internship, to do job shadowing, to have the opportunity to have a business leader come into their classroom and talk about what that work environment looks like today. It's different than it was several years ago when my dad was an employee at John Deere and worked on the factory floor. I'm telling you, when I went to work with my dad, it looks a lot different today than it did when I went to work at John Deere with my dad. that. And so it's really important that we talk about the opportunities that exist. We talk about what that workforce looks like. We talk about why it's important to have that background in math, because it's very innovative and technical. And so the advisory board, this is also something that they'll be able to work through some of these issues. But so, I mean, we'll take a look at that, but it's more about Bill, really, they're not going to work a 6-hour day, and they're not going to be there 4 days a week. It's about exposing them to the opportunities. And you've heard me say this so many times. It's about building relationships. When we can have our young people really see the great job opportunities that exist within their communities, they're not so quick to look outside of the state. They're willing to stay within our communities. Henderson Products, Fairway. What did you say? Over 50% of their managers started at age 14 with a part-time job. And so that's the kind of connection and relationships that we want to build and really help kids see that exist. Yeah, I'll come back. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought you were jumping the gun there. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Figure cut, and obviously it's not done yet. The House Republicans are going to have
Right.
Well, but they both have said that they're looking to add a position.
Yep.
On your proposal, it's possible that the higher education cuts are ultimately bigger than what you proposed. How do you balance announcing this funded initiative at a time when there are these kind of cuts to higher education? You have individuals within the higher education community who argue that this is part of, how do you have cuts to higher education and talk about workforce development and have an individual stay here in the state?
Yeah. Well, I think the budget that I put together really highlighted the priorities. And if you look at my budget, my priorities are education, it's Future Ready Iowa, workforce, and healthcare. And I think, I put forward a budget that, balances the needs of Iowans, our state agencies, with as little as disruption as possible. And I spent a lot of time putting that together. This is just part of the process. So now the Senate has proposed something. They've walked through that same piece. The House pretty soon will present what their budget proposals are. And then we sit down and we start to work through and find consensus. So I worked very hard at balancing that very thing that you just talked about. The fact of the matter is, revenues aren't as robust as we thought they would be. We are still growing. So again, I want to just highlight the fact the revenue is growing. It's not as robust as the Revenue Estimating Conference had projected. And if you look at surrounding states, we're relatively not as bad a shape as some of our surrounding states. So I have to live within those means and really, really focus on growing the economy and giving business and industry and job creators the workers that they need. Because I tell you, if we can do that, then we will see this economy grow and expand. And I hear that every single day. So it's part of the process. We've been working on this a lot longer than they have. We'll continue to work through it, and we'll do that with both the House and the Senate, and hopefully we'll get to a responsible place.
Can you give us your thoughts on the Senate immigration enforcement bill discussed this week?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's really important that we enforce the laws that are on the books. And I think that's where we should start the conversation. And I think it's really important that we have all law enforcement working together. So again, this is part of the legislative process. This is where we continue to have the discussion, and we'll wait and see where that ends up. But I do think we need to enforce the laws that are on the books. So was there any more questions? If not, we'll just continue on. I just want to make sure that there weren't any more. They're gone. Okay. Well, they saw their opportunity to exit. Oh, I didn't even see that happen. Okay. Yep.
Cut ties with the ICN that it's losing too much money. Senator or Representative Kaufman said something. Sheriff Oversight said something like that. So did Matt McCoy, who is ranking Democrat, basically saying, maybe we're losing money on it, but it's costing too much money. What's your
Well, first of all, I don't think we should be afraid to look at additional options maybe for using the ICN. So I think, I always say we should never be afraid to review what the uses are. They did take a look at that, and well, they have on multiple occasions. Just as recently, I think it's 2013, they did a review. They actually took bids. We had maybe one bid, one company interested with two bids, basically kind of like a fire sale. So I think it was maybe 5 and 10 million, it's relatively small. The other thing I think we need to be careful of is that there's no unintended consequences. So the National Guard has a fairly significant footprint with the ICN. And so we just need to make sure it doesn't interfere with the way that they are using the ICN and security measures. So I just think as we're moving forward, we've tried it before. Take a look at maybe what some additional options are, but be mindful that there's no unintended consequences to individuals that are utilizing it.
so you're open to
Yeah.
maintaining that?
John, you said, the proposal that you set forward in regards to custom budget was least disruptive as possible. Do you consider $52 billion disruptive?
Well, I'm talking from my perspective. So what I tried to do when I put the budget together, I tried to be, I think Iowans expect us to be fiscally responsible. I wanted to be able to put some money into priorities that I believe are really important to Iowans. I think it's really important. I'm willing to work with Iowans to help them get the skills that they need to get a job or help them go back to college so they can finish that career and have a great quality of life with a great career. And so that's really important. And I think when I talk about growing the economy so we can have a different discussion next year, that's a key piece of that. And so that's why, I split the 111 in 2 years. I think I can demonstrate to Iowans that there is a payback there. We have a rainy day fund, a savings account. It has $600 million in it. So that's what it's there for. And so I'm hoping that with the federal tax cuts that were passed, that we'll start to see some additional revenue from that. And hopefully with the tax reform that we'll be able to get passed this year, we can, continue to help to grow the economy as well.
As somebody who worked in the system that said they'll have to close 30 county courthouses, that's set Republicans proposed. What impact does that have on?
Well, it's, it impacts their access to justice. And so it would have an impact. But that's why it is part of the process. And so we'll sit down. I think there's ways that we can respect some of the things that are really important to them by really reducing the impact on Iowans and services. And so that's the conversation that we'll have moving forward.
Is it possible at this point to do what you need to do to balance the budget and not create a big disruption in the state's judicial system?
Well, I tried to do that in my budget, so I would say that I did. Yes, there is a way, and that's what we put forward. That's a conversation that we'll continue to have. Yep. Yep.
Just really quick point about that. The bill. I know that law enforcement groups are registered against the bill, and there are attorneys who argue that it could actually open it up to a legal challenge.
Mhm.
Is that the time to be proposing this legislation if that's what's possible there to do?
Well, that's how the process works. So you take a bill and it's filed, and then the conversation begins, and then you have the opportunity to hear supportive of the bill. This is the opportunity to hear again what some of those unintended consequences might be. I think it's important to really follow the laws that are on the books, and we need all law enforcement working together. But this is, again, part of the process, and this is how legislators become informed. That's why we have subcommittees. That's why you bring in lobbyists, stakeholders that would be impacted by this. You gather the information, and then you move forward. And that's why I'm try very hard never to weigh in on a bill when it's filed, because I've seen the iterations that take place throughout that conversation.
You weighed in on this bill, though, when you said that the Senate version that passed, if it got to your desk, you would sign it. You still
But I
stand
said,
by
but
that?
I would wait until I saw what it looked like in its final form. I said, in general, I think that, we need to enforce the laws that are on the books, and that we need all law enforcement, working together. And then I said too that, if it's an illegal immigrant that has broken the law, they've made a choice to break the law, be held accountable. And I don't think there's an individual out there that doesn't really believe that if they're here and we're figuring out how to handle that, but if they've willingly chosen to break the law, then they should be held accountable. But I'll wait to see where it ends up in its final version.
I also have a follow-up question about the budget, though. I know if the cuts are larger than the amount that you proposed, does this mean that some of these kind of initiatives need to be put on hold because that's the reality of the budget this year?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's speculation. So we don't know. It's a waste of time to speculate on what ifs, because I'm focused on really getting to consensus and getting it to the place where I believe we can be respectful of everybody and with as little as disruption as possible. But I know how important this is. And so what we've done before in instances like this, we'll look for public-private funding. This is $250,000. It's a relatively small amount. And you've heard Reynolds Kramer saying that, Fairways invested, the Iowa Business Council has already made a tremendous commitment. And so for a relatively small investment, we can have a really, really big impact on our young people, on school districts, on business and industry and job creators. And I get dinged all the time about what are you going to do about our young people and having them exit the state? Well, I feel like this is a solution that'll help keep them in the state of Iowa. And so we're going to make it happen one way or the other, but I'm ready to go to the mat talking to legislators to find a way to have this become a reality for our kids and young adults and individuals all across the state of Iowa. Thank you.